Hello guys, today I want to talk about the data types in Python. There are different data types in Python, and what I want to do, I want to go over every single of them and introduce them to you. The first type is the text type, and in the text type there is one data type which is called string, or as abbreviated version is a str in Python. The numeric types of data in Python includes int, which is integer, float, which is a float number, and also a complex number. The sequence types includes list, tuple, and range. Mapping type, and we're going to get to the mapping type, I'm going to explain it in details to you, is dictionary. We also have set types, which is in Python is defined as set, and also we have Boolean types, which is defined as bool, and we also have binary types defined as bytes. Okay, so before getting to details of each data types, I want to talk about one function that you can use to actually identify the data types you're dealing with, and that function is the function type. And in a second, we're going to see how it works. For instance, let's get to the first data type, which is text type. And as I said, the string is a text type in Python. For instance, I can say, I enjoy learning Python. So this is, as you can see, I have a sentence here, and this is defined as a string in Python. So if I use the function type, and I put this text inside the parenthesis, then that's what I have, string. So the function shows me the data types I'm dealing with, which is inside the quotation. I enjoy learning Python is a string type. Okay, the next type of data types, we get to the next category, which is the numeric types. In numeric types, let's first talk about the integer. For instance, if I write down x equals, I don't know, 34. This 34 is automatically identified as an integer in Python, which means if I use the type again, oh, sorry. If I use the type again, so the type x, shift enter, sorry, I forgot to run this one. As you can see, this is integer. The next numeric type is float. Float could be any real number which has decimal, for instance, 45.6. And if I defined x equals to 45.6, then I use the function type again. Next here, as you can see, the Python identified as a float. The next numeric type is complex. Complex includes any complex number. You may not deal with a complex number a lot in Python, but it's good to know is one of the numeric types, numeric data types in Python. For instance, I don't know, 2j. If I define x equals 2j, then this is a complex data type. So if I run it, if I put type 2x, type x, as you can see, it identified as a complex. The next one, as you can see here, we get to the next category, which is a sequence types. The first data types in sequence category is list. And the way we define list is we put the values inside square bracket. For instance, I can have a list of, I don't know, different sports. Let's say football and basketball. I think these two are enough. And then I put x equals to this list. As I said, the special feature of the list is like you got to put the values inside the square bracket. And if I run this line of code, and if I ask what is the type of x, and as you can see, the Python tells me this is a list. The next sequence type is tuple. So tuple is very similar feature to list. In another video, I'm going to talk about the difference between these two. But for now, just know that for list, we use a square bracket. For tuple, we use just parentheses. For instance, I can say x equals to. I'm using this. I'm going to use the same input, and this time I'm going to use parentheses. Put it here. There you go. And I'm going to run this code. And if I ask for type x, it's going to tell me, the Python is going to tell me it's tuple. The last one is range. And basically the range is the values from 0 to a certain value. What do I mean? For instance, instead of writing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, what I can do, I can simply write down range 6, which it includes the value 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The range does not include the upper value. It includes the lower value, not the upper value. For instance, the range 6 actually means we include the values from 0 included up to 6. And 6 is not included. Or we can say from 0 to 5. And 5 is included. That's what range means. The next data type is mapping type. In another video, I'm going to talk about this data type in more details. But for now, it's good to know we also have a data type known as mapping type in Python, and this is a dictionary. In the dictionary, the best way I can put it is like dictionary is a more advanced way of representing data than list and tuple. And what do I mean by that? Oh, I forgot to put it here. For instance, x equals range 6. I run this, and if I put type x, as you can see, it shows as a range. Okay, now let's get to the dictionary. In dictionary, what we have is something called key, and the other thing is item. And this is very good to assign values to a certain array of data. For instance, when you want to talk about someone, you probably ask them for their first name and their last name and their age. Okay, so what I can do, and this time for dictionary, we're using a curly bracket. So it's here. And the first value we put is the key value. For instance, I put name. Here's the name. And the next value is the value assigned to that key. For instance, I can say the name is John. Let's see. Last name, again, this is the key value. This is the key, or simpler to say, that's key, and name male, and also the other key in the dictionary is age, which could be 54, right? So as you can see, the value assigned to the first key is a string, the value assigned to the second key is a string, the value assigned to the third key is an integer value, and there's no problem with that. So if I run this line of code and if I ask Python, what is the type of x? As you can see, it gives me dict, which is an abbreviated version of dictionary. The next data types is set types. you're probably not gonna use set types a lot, but for some specific applications, you may need to use set. And it's also good to know, like, we have set types in Python. So for sets, sets are very, very similar to list and tuple. Again, I'm not going to go to details about the difference between you, how they perform, but for now, there are a very obvious difference between these two, is like how we represent set. For the set value, instead of the square bracket and parenthesis, we use curly bracket. And the difference between set and dictionary is, like, for dictionary, we have key and we have items or values assigned to the key. But for set, just like tuple and list, we just have a list of values. For instance, here, I'm just going to copy and paste these two types of sports. X equals this one. I'm going to run this line of code, and I'm going to ask Python what is the type of X. And as you can see, it gives me set. The other type I want to talk about is the Boolean. And the Boolean type, which is shown as bool in Python, is talking about the true false values. For instance, if I define X equals to true and just know it that the first letter should be a capital, so true. As you can see, the Python just green highlight the true. And if I run this line of code, if I ask Python what is the type of X, the Python tells me it's a Boolean. Also, for instance, if I say X greater, if I say, let's say 10 greater than 20, right? 10 is not greater than 20. So the answer to this inequality is false. So if I ask Python what is the type of 10 greater than 20, again, it's going to give me it's a Boolean, because false also is included in the Boolean type. And if you wonder, if I just run this 10 greater than 20, this is what I'm getting, false. And if I ask Python what is the type of false, it's a Boolean. The other data types I want to talk about is binary types, and here I want to only talk about bytes, but it's good to know the binary types include bytes, byte arrays, and memory views in Python. But here, for the simplicity, I'm going to only explain about bytes. But it's good to know the bytes and byte arrays are used to manipulate binary data in Python, and also these bytes and byte arrays are supported by buffer protocol named memory view. But here, let's get to how we can actually define a binary type data in Python. Let's get to the last line. I'm going to add another line here. For instance, I write down X equals to show a data is a binary type, I got to use the letter B, lowercase, and single quotation or double quotation you can use after the B. And I'm getting single quotation here, and let's say I put John. I run this code, and if I ask Python type X, as you can see, the Python tells me it's the type of the data is bytes. The last thing I want to talk about is setting specific data types in Python. And this means how we can convert different data types to each other. For instance, if we have a tuple and we want to convert it to a list, how we can do that. So to do so, I can just copy this line, coming down here. So this is a tuple. Now, if I ask Python what is the type of X, it shows me as a tuple. Now I want to convert it to Python. To do so, I can use a function named list. So I can say make X, which is already defined as a tuple, convert it to a list and put it in X. I run this line of code. Now if I ask Python what is the type of X, it shows me the X now converted to a list. In our example, for instance, X equals 10J. As we know, X equals 10J. Now the type of X should be a complex. If I run this line of code, if I ask Python what is the type of X, it's a complex. Now let's say I want to convert it to a string in Python, so the function I can use is str, so x equals str x. Basically, the right side of code, what it does, it convert x, which is already defined as a complex, it convert it to a string and put the value inside this x. If I run this line of code, now if I ask Python, what is the type of x? It shows it as a string. Okay, that was it for today. I hope you find this tutorial useful, and looking forward to see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.